Bars may come and go, but sometimes their mark in a community, it lasts forever. That's definitely the case with Tewligans. The once biker bar turned music venue was host to countless local and national acts. Bands like Pearl Jam, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Smashing Pumpkins were among hundreds of rock, punk, and new wave acts to take the stage during the 80s and the mid-90s. But it also played a priceless part in growing the local music scene as well. One of those local musicians is with us today. Chuck Baxter joins us this morning to talk about a Tewligans Reunion concert happening this weekend and about the famous music venue's impact on Louisville and beyond. This is a piece of history that I'm a transplant, but wasn't aware of.
Yes, Tewligans started in 1981 and went from new wave to punk rock to Americana and everything in between. And it was a great place for the local musicians to have a home and to keep playing and support each other over the years.
Punk, people who are punk fans, explain that genre, because they're committed fans.
And punk rock came from garage rock and the places that are in rock and roll already. And Louisville really seized on it in its own way. In the late 70s and into the 80s and into the 90s, the Louisville punk scene produced some really interesting and unique bands who brought sounds out into the larger marketplace, especially later on in the 90s with Squirrelbait and Slint and some of those bands that got a lot of attention in the larger scene. But before that, we were just kind of our own scene, doing our own thing, and we're pretty proud of it.
But also those bands, those are some that have influenced bigger bands like Foo Fighters.
Yeah, Foo Fighters had one of the lead singer from Squirrelbait and many other things, Peter Searcy, come on stage with them just last year to sing one of his songs because Dave Grohl was such a fan of it when he was just getting started.
I'm a big fan of Peter Searcy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, I think we have, go figure, a story by Tony Vanetti that we can go ahead and call up here.
I got a million Tewligan stories, but here's a good one. Good friend of mine, Jimmy Vallandigham from the Predators, originally in the Hammerheads. He called me up and said, look, dude, there's a British guy in town. He's putting a band together. Rumor has he's already got a record deal, so let's go check him out. It's at Tewligans. I said, all right. So he picked me up. We went over. And when we got there at Tewligans, it was packed with every musician in Louisville. They all want to check out who this guy was and whether the band was going to be any good. Their first time was at Tewligans, and they blew everyone away. We all looked at each other and went, wow, this band is amazing. The name of the band was Smokehouse. But of course, at the time, Smokehouse was the name of a pizza at Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut got wind of the name of the band. They sued him and said, dude, can't call yourself Smokehouse. So that was the first time we saw Eden Street. Smokehouse became Eden Street. And the first time we saw him was at Tewligans.
So, getting sued by Pizza Hut may be good for your street cred, I guess?
There's a lot of band names out there, and a lot of bands have to change their name, and they came out better.
They definitely did. So let's talk about the history, though. So at first it was a biker bar called the Cherokee?
Function Junction.
Okay.
It was the biker hippie bar, and then Marion Doyle Guy took it over in 1981. It became Tewligans, kind of an amalgamation of some friends of theirs' names. And it stayed that way into the 90s. For a little while it was Cherokee Blues Club, and that's when we did a Poor Girls Reunion, my band, in 94. And then after that, it became Cahoots and closed down after a while, and now it's Nirvana. It's much cleaner than it used to be, because that's one of the reasons our group is calling our segment Tewligans Carpet. The spilled beer made that place pretty funky.
Now we have a pic of you and Andy Warhol.
Yes, that was taken by a Louisville native, Lee Childers, who came back through town. He was part of the Warhol scene, and he said, look me up when you get to New York, and I came up there, and this was at a party.
What was he like?
He didn't want to talk.
He didn't?
No, Lee said, Andy's not going to like this, and he said, stand there, because he knew Andy, and took my picture.
And just stand there and take your picture, and now, that's historic. So the reunion coming up this weekend.
This Saturday night at 10:47, the same location. So it's kind of deja vu to be back in that space. But it's going to be an early show. It's going to start at 7:30. It's going to be over at 10:30. So we're going to have Warren Ray going on early at 7:30. Stutter is going on at 8:15. And they are a conceptual art, improvisational rock, interesting. And then my band with Tewligans Carpet is going to be playing at about 9 o'clock.
Wonderful.
We're going to do some songs some of my songs, some songs I used to do, some songs, song the bass player was in a band that did, and some covers of some of our favorite bands. And then Spot will be finishing up, and they were more of the skate punk early 90s scene. And many of their members went on to be in a lot of other bands.
Fascinating, Chuck. I appreciate you taking the time. Learned a lot today.
Looking forward to it.
The Tewligans Reunion, again, is this Saturday night starting at 7 o'clock, and that's at the old Tewligans location, 1047 Bardstown Road, which is now the Nirvana, Louisville. Tickets are only $8, and you'll hear performances by Spot, Stutter, Warren Ray, Chuck Baxter, and Tewligans Carpet.